Good morning. Welcome to Finance Fridays with Jacobson Family Law. I'm Carrie Jacobson, the owner and CEO of Jacobson Family Law, and so we welcome you to today's Finance Friday. And today we're going to be talking about alternatives to traditional child support. So in our last Finance Friday last week, we talked about how Maryland child support guidelines are calculated. We ran through a sample of that calculation and all the things that go into calculating child support in Maryland. And today I wanted to talk about some creative ways to handle child support that we have seen with some of the families that we work with here at Jacobson Family Law. So as many of you may know, I do a lot of private mediation, and we do settlement negotiations with our individual clients in coming up with terms to include in their marital settlement agreements. And one of the things that is commonly addressed is not only the time sharing arrangement for custody, but also how the parents are going to address child support. And many times, couples simply don't want to have the traditional one parent pays the other parent, the specified child support in the Maryland child support guidelines. And so we talk about alternatives to making that direct payment. And one of the things that we have seen more commonly with our couples is maintaining a joint bank account and depositing monies into that joint bank account and specifying what items on behalf of the children, the expenses that are going to be paid from that account that each parent's going to have access to and be able to, see the debits that come out as well as the payments that are put in. And this works for a lot of families because there's less accounting involved. It's not that one parent is paying for things and then asking for reimbursement of particular items. And it's not a one parent pay the other parent and then that parent have the authority to pay for things on behalf of the children themselves. So this is an option that if you're looking for something that is not that traditional child support payment that you might want to consider. That being said, there are issues that can arise with this. And so it's going to be very important that for this to work, that both you and your co-parent are on the same page with the types of expenses that are going to come out of that account and are going to be paid on behalf of the children. It also helps that if you have similar values when it comes to the types of maybe clothing items or extracurricular activity fees or that sort of thing, that you both are on the same page with that. Otherwise, it could be a place that there could be a bit more conflict if the two of you are not on the same page with how those payments are going to be made. Another alternative to the traditional child support that we commonly see is kind of what I will call a divide and conquer type situation. And this could be that one parent is going to pay for a certain list of expenses. That could be things like health insurance, or maybe it's childcare. And while the other parent is going to pay for other expenses, so that it kind of evens out between the two parents, or it maybe not necessarily evens out, but that each parent is paying their fair share of the expenses given their particular income level between the parents. And so I see this often where maybe the parents' incomes are similar, or even in scenarios where one parent's income is drastically more than the other, and so they will simply make direct payments for expenses on behalf of the child. Could be the child care. It could be maybe even private school tuition. And so in that scenario, it's not necessarily that that parent is paying the parent two, and then parent two being responsible for making the payments to the third parties, but parent one is making payments directly to those third parties. So this can also cut down on some conflict between the parents. Another alternative that I have seen couples do is maybe there is no direct child support from one to the other, but they simply equally divide expenses or divide expenses on a pro rata share. And so that could include those childcare expenses. It could include the expenses related to out-of-pocket medical expenses. It could include things like private school tuition. We've also even had clients talk about things like car insurance and cell phone usage and those types of things. So it's all about you as parents being creative and also looking at what your children's financial needs are and coming up with a system that works for the two of you to reduce conflict. And so these are some of the alternatives that you might want to consider if you're looking for something other than a traditional parent one paying parent two child support based on the child support guidelines. That being said, it's all about how you craft the language in your agreement to make sure that the courts will accept your agreement, because the courts do have a duty to ensure that your children are financially cared for, and that you're not necessarily waiving your child's right to receive the financial child support obligation. And so we want to make sure that the language in the agreement protects both you as well as your children. If you have any questions about how child support is calculated, if you want to know more about the factors that go into calculating child support in Maryland, what might happen if you think your spouse is not working to his or her potential and choosing not to work, but in order to get out of paying child support, we've address a lot of those issues in an e-course. So I'm going to put the link for that in the comments. And if you would like to learn more about how child support in Maryland is calculated, again, what happens if someone is what we call voluntarily impoverishing themselves, or just learn more about child support in Maryland, you can go to our Stan Store and get the e-course to learn more. We hope that this has been helpful for you. If you have questions about your particular situation and want to know more about how to accomplish alternatives to that traditional child support, feel free to schedule a consultation and we can help work with you in creating a solution that works for you and your family. I'm Carrie Jacobson with Jacobson Family Law. Have a great Friday.